Good evening. A warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. This is a meeting of the Children, Families and Education Select Committee. My name is Councillor Heena Makwana and I am the chair of this committee. Details of the business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible on YouTube underneath the broadcast. Please note that members of the committee may be using tablets or laptops to view the agenda. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm does go off, please follow officers to the fire exit and out of the building to the designated meeting points. For those in the room, please switch any mobile devices to silent before the meeting starts, and when you are invited to speak, please ensure you turn your microphone on so that you can be heard in the recording. For those watching via YouTube, if you are so minded, you can complete one of our resident feedback forms. These can be found in the information section underneath the YouTube broadcast. These forms are intended to help us improve the way that we run our meetings. Before we go through our agenda, I'd like to introduce colleagues in the room. So to my right, Life Councillors Gohill, Smallwood and Batt. To my left, Ryan Dell, Democratic Services Officer. And then Councillors Sweeting, Judge and Gill. Mr Tony Little, our co-opted member. And we have joining us this evening Professor Jeff Rogers from Brunel University, David Pells from Orchard Hill College, Dylan McTaggart from Uxbridge College, and Anthony Madden, Council Officer. So good evening and welcome to you all. Right, so agenda 1 is apologies for absence. Ryan.
Yep, so we've got apologies from Councillor Haggart with Councillor Gohill substituting.
Okay, thank you Councillor Gohill for subbing this evening. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest in matters coming before this meeting. Yes, Councillor Smallwood.
Chair, could I just note my non-pecuniary interest as a trustee of the Union of Brunel Students?
Yeah, noted, thank you. Number 3 is minutes of the previous meeting, which was the 7th of January. Can we agree? Councillor Sweeting.
Can I say that they were excellent minutes? We had a very long meeting, very detailed meeting, and I think all the issues were registered very accurately. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Okay, agenda item 4, to confirm that the items of business marked as part 1 will be considered in public and the items marked as part 2 will be considered in private. So to confirm there are no part 2 items. So we go straight on to our witness session on further and higher education. So we're going to start off with yourself, David, from Orchard Hill. So what I think would be good is if, rather than you giving a presentation, we can open the floor straight to questions, if you're okay with that. Yeah, is that okay?
Yes, of course, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if you want me just to talk a little bit about Orchard Hill and what we do, and then absolutely, and then I can open the floor, or just open the floor straight away.
Okay, if you can give us a quick, brief summary, that would be great, and then we'll go straight to questions.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank
you. My name's David. I'm from Orchard Hill, which is based on Hillingdon. We're across multiple areas. We have over 11 sites based in Hillingdon, Kingston, Southwark and Sutton. And we also have a link with 14 schools which form a part of our academy. The site I'm based at in Hillingdon, we have about 85 to 90 students, predominantly based at next to Uxbridge College. And we also have a supported internship programme, one based here and one based at the Hillingdon Hospital. And we really focus on working on the PFA outcomes for areas, so employment, good health, independent living and friends and relationships, which are all taken off their EHCPs. And we also have some students that don't have EHCPs where the funding comes from the adult education budget as well. But yeah, we're keen to sort of get links with more people in the community and things and get our name known a bit more. So open to questions.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, opening it out to the floor. Any questions? Who wants to go first? Mr. Little, thank you.
I'm afraid we haven't had much from you in the past, so I'm speaking from a position of ignorance. But how do you determine which students you will take in your college? Is it done just by applications, or are there suitability criteria that limit who can go and who can't?
Yeah, absolutely, good question. So we have a real range of needs at our college. We have students, PMLD students with lots of medical needs. Then we have some sort of moderate learning difficulties, and we also have severe learning difficulties. And then we have some of our students who are on the support internship programme who need a lot less support. In terms of our assessment process, parents, and we'll put in an expression of interest, which comes through to the college, and it goes to our assessments team. And then we'll have like a panel meeting to see how much support they need, how much funding they'll need, whether they need any additional funding, for example, with behaviours of concern, maybe they need physio support, OT, creative arts therapy, because quite often our students have come from school where they've been there for up to sort of 15 years, 15, 16 years, so very long time. So it's a big change for them, so we really take that into account. We also do really thorough visits, so we just go and visit the school setting, speak to the staff that have been working with students, and speak to parents, and then we can assess to see how much support they'd need, which would be going to the funding. And then we would obviously say whether we can meet a need or not. And then in terms of which number of students have come through, I think this year we've got 27 spaces. So we've got a few leavers in the Hillingdon area, but the spaces, we've got quite a big waiting list to really sort of, whoever, as soon as they get the applications in, then it goes to the assessments team, and our students come from multiple areas, Hillingdon, Slough, Ealing, but there's more, and also Bucks as well. There is more students at the moment, seems to be coming from Hillingdon, the local area. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Batt.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that the college holds half-termly student council meetings, and there's also you said we did report. Can you provide examples of changes that have been implemented as a direct result of student feedback?
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of student council meetings, they're actually looking at sort of making the agenda more the same across all of our regions. And this is things, for example, they have been working on planning our social calendar. So something I want to share to the floor today is that students felt that they weren't getting enough opportunities to do activities outside of college. So we've actually teamed up and working alongside Borough University, who've kindly said we can use their university once a month for a nightclub event. So that 27th of February is our first event where we're launching, and we're going to have the students involved with attending that event, and we're opening that sort of hacks. So we have a good link with social care and the know and our feeder schools and things at schools in the area. In terms of like you said, we very much. So for example, once a month the class teams will write what sort of changes have happened. So one young man, I think they said they weren't happy with the timetable, so it's really simple. So because they're adults and they can advocate for themselves, so they weren't happy, they wanted some changes, so we made some changes with that. I think there was another young man who wasn't happy with their standing frame, so we looked, and the OT did some assessment in the physio, and they looked at making sure that they were more comfortable and things in a better sort of position. But yeah, with the student council, we're looking at trying to just get what they're not happy with and things. So some of them have said, our wheelchair users have said about the access into town and things, and lifts not working and things. So we've been trying to work with sort of the local MP and things to try and sort of improve that for our young people. But particularly one thing we were focused on was the students getting involved with the community more and having more opportunities. But we're looking at trying to improve it and sort of have it the same across all of our regions, because we are, so we've got a number of sites.
Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Chair. Often new speakers, I just realised now. It's a brilliant thing that what Orchard Hill do. One of the key things that college provides is that middle way between lower school and then going into the real world, maybe higher education. What support and facilities are there for the kids to progress into higher education or careers and employability?
Yeah, so we very much. So we're generally on most of our courses. We have a number of courses. Our main course is a 3-year course focusing on the PFA outcomes. So we will look at their post-college destination. So, for example, we have some learners that are going to attending the gym at Hillingdon Leisure Centre. Excuse me. So we'll try and make sure that carries on after they finish with us. So we're very much in that third year with that annual review. They will have a annual review, and then we'll suggest like a post-college timetable. So if they're going to go to the gym, how they're going to do that? Are they going to have a PA to support them? And then for the employment, we look at sort of those voluntary or paid jobs and things. So we've got quite a few links with different companies. So So one of our big ones is Uxbridge Football Club. Some of our students get some voluntary work there, and have actually been offered some paid work there, which has been really good. We also have our supported internship for students that's appropriate for. So look at doing that as a stepping stone after they finish with on the 3-year course. But they also look at sort of voluntary opportunities and things, whether it's a charity shop or food banks and things. But we really thrive for the best aspiration for our students to try and get that paid work and things. So the Uxbridge Football Club has been really good. We've had some links with Clayton's Hotel as well. And trying to think, the garden centres and things like that, trying to get that paid work. We have job coaches at our college who support, who attend events and careers events and things. We work on interview skills, and we try and get those, and we have careers fairs and things to try and work on those skills. Then with the friends and relationships, we have our students, sort of PMLD students and thing. Quite often, a few of them will attend the Dash in Uxbridge Town Centre. And other places as well to try and get things that they can carry on with after college. Because with our PMLD learners, as we all know, it can be quite challenging for what things they can do after. And in terms of the links and things, so quite a few of our students will have that sort of PA potentially to support them going, because when they have finished their course, the EHP will cease. And then they go through to social care, and then social care will support them. But before we finish with they finish with us at college, we make sure that that 3-year course has got that post-college destination. So we support with transitioning things to these new places. We have some of our PMLD learners that goes to Queen's Walk, which is a day centre to complete activities and things. They do some hydrotherapy as well. But we're always trying to make sure as soon as they come through the door in year 1, we're trying to look at opportunities and things for them to do when they finish college. And we also have a Work Start programme. So this is a 2-year course, which is different, and usually our higher ability students, where they work on having a job coach to support them to get to that paid work. So they work on employability skills, they do their apprentice units and things, work on their functional skills, maths and English. So when they can finish that Work Start course, whether it's 1, sometimes 2 years, hopefully they'll get offered a paid job. Which is what we're aiming for, to try and get those our functioning students, but our sort of students that need more support and things. We're trying to always work with social care, to try and see what sort of avenues we can go down to help support them when they finish at college. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Little.
How can Hillingdon best help you?
Great question. I think we would definitely like to get known more in the area. So we have been at I think it was the adult education centre before. I think we've been based next to the Hillingdon Leisure Centre next to Oxford College for about, I think we're in our 3rd year there. So really we want to try and just spread the word a bit more about Orchard Hill College, be a part of events and things, get our students known. We've had some of our students attend the SEND Youth Forum meeting, which was with some people from the Civic Centre, and this was really good because it gave the people in Leicester the chance to meet our students and have a talk about what things are not working. I think we would love to just, get known more and just be have more opportunities for our young people to get those paid jobs and things, and get those voluntary jobs. We have to always looking for more people to offer us work experience and things for young people to do work. So we do have one of our supported internships here, which is great. So a number of people, businesses here support us with that. But yeah, I think just getting known more, and just people coming to see us, come and see what we're all about, and we'd love to see more people and talk to more people to just spread the word a bit more.
Sounds great, thank you. Councillor Sweeting.
Well, it sounds all very exciting, and I think your college is what is really needed. So, is there any avenue for extra capacity going forward? Because I'm always asking those sorts of questions, and sometimes it's a yes and sometimes it's a no. But it would be useful to see what your future is you're considering your future.
Yeah, I mean, we are very limited for space, so we are not able to grow too much, but we would love to sort of try and expand a bit. But the number of students we have and the parking and things, it's very small, so we're trying to look at other things we have. We have a number of our PMLD students who come with lots of standing frames and things. So again, it's trying to have space and things. Certainly with our supported internships, which are off-site, that is something we are really looking to grow. We have quite a few numbers for both for our Civic Centre and the Hillingdon Hospital, so we're really keen to expand that more and have more students. Generally, those students are sort of entry 3 and above that would attend that course. And similarly with our Work Start course, we're always looking for more students to try and attend that, but space is a little bit of a problem for our to expand too much more. But I know our head is always, an executive head is keen to do it, but it's trying to get a bit more space, so it's a bit tricky.
Have you shared this with the council, saying, you know, if we had more space, we could do more? I mean,
yes, I'm sure they have. My head and executive head, they're aware of sort of the space and things, but certainly I'll liaise with the council a bit more to try and see if there is further things that we can do to support that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Judge.
Thank you, Chair. Can you share, what life-changing learning opportunities you have provided and how you intend to continue with them? Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have a young person who, a wheelchair user, came in with no communication aids. He would have a few. He would be very vocal, but was still very difficult to understand. So with support from speech and language therapists and things, I know he's trying to get sort of his best communication that he can use to support. He's now got a grid pad where he's got on an iPad with his pages of what he wants. So his family page, friends page, where he's going, and he's able to vocalise using this to say about things that he wants to do. And he's in his 3rd year now. He's been attending DASH in the local area. He's also been involved in sort of enterprise. Recently we made lots of things to sell at the Christmas market. So we had some of our students attend the Uxbridge market, which was a real success. And this young person is so happy that he's actually able to share his voice now and talk to us about his concerns or things. And it's just absolutely fantastic to see. With another young person, he again really suffers with his mental health issues. Was actually not in school for a number of years. Came to us on our Work Start course, coming in not very much at the beginning, then how he's attending all the time, and he's got 2 work placements. One of them is at a reptile house, which is really passionate about animals. Another one is with a dog grooming company, and actually he's been working at Uxbridge Football Club, and the Uxbridge Football Club is the one where he's been offered some paid work. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite ready to take that step yet, but he's had a fantastic time with us, and now he's actually looking to go for the supported internship programme to potentially with us, or maybe even at Thorpe Park. That's something that's really interesting, because Thorpe Park have a supported internship, so that's been really life-changing for him. I think there's a sort of couple that stick to mind, but yeah, I think it's just we've had a couple more that have had sort of one young lady actually I think is a really good one. So when she came with us, travel training skills she really wanted to work on, wasn't able to travel alone, and with the support from the TA, we had her work planning the routes and things, and she was actually able to do it with failure support. We actually sent a TA sort of on the bus, but she didn't know the TA was there. It was someone who's unfamiliar but worked with the college, so in case she needed any emergency support, and she was able to get from home to college. And now she's actually working on getting from home to her work placement, which is at a hair salon in West Drayton, and there has been some. I think it's looking like potentially she can get some paid work with them. So that's absolutely fantastic. And I say she's in her 3rd year now, so we're hoping that will carry on when we finish. So it's been really life-changing for her and the family.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing those stories. Absolutely fantastic. Councillor Smallwood.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, David, for what you've said so far. Congratulations on the outstanding Ofsted that you received back in 2019. But obviously you're always striving for constant perfection and to get that Ofsted again. And if we know Ofsted well, like doing a little bit of maths, they might be back soon. What work have it's going to happen tomorrow now, and you're never going to forgive me. What work have you been doing to ensure that you continue to provide that outstanding service, and the next time they visit, get that outstanding report again?
Yes, so we thank you. We are very much due for an Ofsted check. We recently had a sort of a health check from an ex-Ofsted person who came in to do some learning walks, and actually myself and the head were observing with the teachers, and then we had to give feedback to with the inspector, and just to say whether he agreed with our comments and sort of any changes and things. And he said we were on line with that, which was great to hear. We had our assistant principal who did safeguarding, talked about safeguarding, and there was lots of positive feedback of things. So we have students on intervention plans that need it. We have contextual safeguarding sessions, so very much on relevant topics that mental health, e-safety, that I've just started delivering at our site as well. And the teachers that come into us, they have a quite in-depth induction process. So when they come to us, they have a 2-week induction. So they're not in class. They do all the essential things like manual handling, team teach to support with behaviours concern, physio training, and managing, child protection training, and those sort of essential bits of training. So after that 2 weeks, they've got all that, so then they can go into the class. So we know that they've had that essential training. In terms of increasing the teaching and learning, it's something we're always working on doing. So we have regular learning walks within the college. So every couple of weeks we do sort of a 10-minute learning walk, and we have 4 more observations once a month. And then if teachers don't meet the standards, then they go on to like a development plan where they'll have one-to-one meetings with the deputy head or the head of college to work on specific things. And we really make sure that when we're going into classes after they've had the lesson that maybe wasn't on track, that they just have 1 or 2 things to focus on, so it's not too overwhelming for the teacher. And then if things still haven't improved, then it becomes more formal things. But we have quite rigid things. And I think certainly with the supported internships, the civic centre has been going for a little bit longer, but the hospital is quite new, so that's sort of second year, and we're really trying to push that with the sort of career side of things, and get more people to know about us and get those into the paid jobs. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? Fabulous. David, you're welcome to stay on. Dylan is next, but if you'd like to leave or need to leave, please feel free to do so. Okay? Right, Dylan, please.
I'll just say very little, and I'll try and keep it short, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Thank you for letting us be here tonight. So we're a growing college group, 15,000 students, growing about 7% every year. About 8,500 of them are 16 to 18-year-olds, so they're young people who are coming to the college. We're about 50% level 3 and above, that's A-level, and about 50% below. The college offers 8,500 16 to 18-year-olds, 4,500 adults. About half of them are on part-time programs, about half of them are young adults. They don't know they're adults, they're 19 or 20, so they're adult in funding nomenclature, but not in their own maturity. And then we've got about another 2,000 part-time adults who do short courses towards employment, and that's very successful as well. We have a higher education wing, which is spread across some of our 15 subject areas. A lot of it is in engineering and STEM, and so many students will come to us having, for example, had a poor time at school and travel all the way through to level 5 to do their final year university top-up year. Our applicants get 86% of them get their first choice of university, even with those vast numbers. We are really diverse, and proudly so, and not just in our ethnic makeup, but in our student backgrounds. So around 450 looked after children. That's doubled in the last 2 years. They achieve only 1% below their peers, and it's some of the highest achievement in the UK. We have around 850 high needs students, so similar to David, ranging from very low, profound and multiple learning difficulty, PMLD, where you might have 3 staff members and 1 student in a specialist unit, all the way up to students who are working at level 2 and 3 and are just on their journey, like you or I, onto university, etc. So it's really diverse. About 60% of our young people come to us, and that's across 8,500 of them, without both English and Maths GCSE from school. So we absorb that challenge. It scares me that we absorb it. We do it. We have some of the highest progress despite that in the UK, and we're in the top 10% of all colleges nationally. So students will come to us with no or some GCSEs in significant proportions of that 8,500, 60% of them, and they will make huge strides with us. And so we're still able to achieve, as I said, some of the highest achievement in the UK. It's 8% above national average. That's despite merging with a new college, Richmond College, which was a failing college financially and achievement-wise. So Harrow and Uxbridge standalone are outstanding in Ofsted terms, and they were very clear with us. Richmond, when we merged with them, was in a very different place, but overall we came out as good, and that shows the development and change that we've brought that college on. Just one or two more points, Heena, I'm more conscious of time, thank you. We're very employer-focused, so our courses need to deliver not just achievement, so what about a certificate? They need to achieve destinations. So 96% of our people will achieve a positive destination. A great portion of that is jobs, but the rest of it is moving up a level in their program, so moving from year to year and not getting lost in the ether. Our retention is 97% across those 15,000 students. We lose just 3% in a year, some for relocation purposes, families, etc. Our exclusions are under 20 for the entire year, so extraordinary. We're very proud of that. Employers shape our curriculum, and we shape our curriculum around both the Mayor's priorities and the LSIP priorities. So we're growing significantly in STEM and engineering. We're investing £12 million alone in the Uxbridge buildings in the next 2 years to further develop our Institute of Technology. And if I want to say anything else, we have a great partnership with Hillingdon Local Authority. I think we're doing some groundbreaking things that I don't see in other colleges, and when I bring them up as group principal, I feel like a little bit of high five going on. The Hillingdon are really outward looking compared to our other local authorities that we are directly stationed in. We've done some groundbreaking work on a 14 to 19 education strategy, bringing head teachers together, focused on NEETs before they become NEETs, and that work continues, and it's really strengthened the work with the high schools, who I think are great too, by the way. And we've just purchased Borough Hall in Hayes, which is going to be a new SEN facility, specialist, and we're looking at, because we are growing at about 15% a year in high need students alone. And finally, we're probably going to look at another purchase of a building. I don't want to talk about that too much now, but we're hoping to complete that soon, and that will mean we can grow more into the department and support the area. And that's it. I think that's probably enough. Once I stop, I can't stop. So.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. Right, Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dylan. That was very informative, really, really good. A couple of questions from me. One, you were mentioning about the students that come to you without a GCSE in maths and English. How many of them actually leave with a GCSE eventually? That was the first question. And the second one was, I mean, you're a massive college, aren't you? You've got the economies of scale of 3 or 4 different colleges. Do staff move around from one place to another as and when needed? Because that could be a huge advantage, couldn't it, in filling skill shortages in certain subjects. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really good questions. So the GCSE conversation is something that we are eternally focused on. And I'll give you an example. When we do our sittings, so for the recent November re-sittings, we have to shut the entire group down just to house the exams. So we will have 4,500 students doing a GCSE maths on one day, and 4,500 students doing a GCSE English on another day. And that's right, and the 3 for maths. So that gives you a sense of the volume of students who are doing a sitting in 1 year. Our high grade, if you call that a pass, is around 23%. Now I recoil at that, but in the national picture that is significant for that cohort of students who are coming to us. So I would say about 40% come with GCSEs, and they will progress faster. Despite that, I go back to 96% positive progression destinations. So despite those starting points, those students are achieving merits and distinctions in their main vocational, not voc, sorry, short language for us. And as I said, 86% get their first choice of university or go into employment or apprenticeships. So we don't let that hold them back, and that percentages every year aggregate. So students will have done it, and then they'll be with us for 3 to 4 years. So if they don't get it the first year, they'll do it the second year. So by the time they leave us, the vast majority of students will have it, but some of them have started with such a deficit and the scale of it's fantastic. But it's an exciting area, and we're working more and more on immersive tech to try and help students learn outside of the class too. But, and the second question, sorry, was about sharing resource across the group. We do have scale, and we do have teachers move between engineering departments for certain skills. If we grow a higher education course at one of our Harrow campuses, for example, we absolutely allow that to happen. But the growth is so phenomenal that we're constantly recruiting, and we try and recruit with integrity and quality. So our teaching is definitely outstanding, and our results are outstanding, and we intend to hold to that, because our young people should not get lost in the volume of what we do. That would defeat the purpose. So we work at around a 7% vacancy factor constantly, and that means and plus that we have about 3% agency on top of that. So we're constantly covering, and staff are working above and beyond to make sure students don't miss out. We don't cancel classes. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gohill.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Dylan. I was quite interested to hear about your partnership with MIT. I was hoping you could tell us a bit more about that. Maybe how you track how successful that's going, or any other sort of early outcomes you can share with us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that excuse me, that's a really exciting new project. So we're trying to focus our curriculum on where it needs to be tomorrow, and the way that we do that is engage with formal partnerships with Heathrow and other partners, 2,500 employers, not all of them big. A new partner is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I always find that very difficult to say, which is embarrassing when I'm in front of them. And that partnership is very much about upskilling both our staff, because they teach HE or they teach level 3 and they need tomorrow's skills in digital and or other. And it's also about giving our students opportunity to visit there and to experience the MIT aspiration. And so we've created internal scholarships for our students, which we are funding as a reward for excellent work and progression. We've also started a national competition, so we're the first college to do that, where schools and other colleges are allowed to put forward students to present approaches to changing environmental challenges, and the judges are MIT, and part of those students who are not even ours, we are funding as a prize, because we're trying to create ambition in the sector as well. So those things are happening now, and we haven't quite seen where that's going to land, but one thing I'm very proud of is the volume of entrants we've already had from schools and colleges around the UK. So we're trying to break new ground in this, and it's exciting stuff. Ask me next time.
Thank you for that. Mr. Little.
Thank you. A couple of questions, if I may. In terms of your kind of position in the local education market, do you see yourself as competing with the local schools, or as offering something extra and different? And why would a student choose to come to you rather than staying for the sixth form?
It's a fantastic question. The first thing is a student or a parent will choose us because our staff are from industry. They have worked in Microsoft, or they have worked in Google, or they've worked in whichever engineering firm, and so they bring that into the classroom. The second thing is our facilities are not classroom-based. We have many classrooms, of course, boxes with a screen at the front, but we have advanced train technology. We're investing in advanced aero technology, just by way of a couple of examples, from game design, and so between the staff having that experience and the facilities, the environment is set up for being work ready. So students will do as well as talk about. For example, the health and care students will have a nutrition suite, etc., which is set up like a hospital. And so it's a very different learning environment as well as your classic theory classrooms. Sorry, could you repeat your other question as well? Yeah, thank you.
You partly covered it anyway, but I have a completely different one, if I may. a completely different question, if I may. There were some statistics at the end of that fast documentation you sent us.
Yes.
That was very informative. I'm not knocking it.
No, please.
But where you talk about Hillingdon residents' student data analysis on page 69 in the agenda.
Okay, let's have a look. I knew I sent you too much. 69, so it's just not coming up as the page for me. What is the title, sorry?
It just says Hillingdon resident student data analysis. It's right at the end of your bit.
61. Oh, sorry, yes, fine, thank you, that's fine.
Yep. And there's a column headed LAC, which I presume is looked after children.
It is.
Yeah, and it's got a number who are withdrawn. I presume that's students who haven't finished the course.
Yes.
And that seems, compared to the rest of the numbers there, that seems a high proportion of the students. Do you think there's particular reasons for that?
So the first thing I would say is that the overall withdrawals in the college are 3%, which is very small. Some of these students will be withdrawn perhaps quite early in the program because they've moved, relocated. For example, we have a good portion of these students are ESOL students, English as a Second Language students, whose families are forcibly relocated to Manchester and/or other, and that happens every year. There's a raft of students who get shifted. A very small portion of those students, I don't have a number, but a very small portion of those students will have been removed because they're of behaviour or engagement. It will be because family has relocated. Will be one of the main reasons for that. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, Councillor Smallwood.
Thank you, Chair. Do you measure the journey that a pupil wants to go on, whether that be moving into higher education, whether that be moving straight into work, whether that be moving straight into apprenticeship? Obviously, applying for university and getting in or not getting in is probably it is easy to measure, I guess.
Yes, of course.
Whereas work is probably a more difficult one. But do you measure it, and what are your success rates in those different pathways, as able as you are to measure that?
That's really very useful, thank you. Yes, we measure the destination of every student, whether it be internal or external, university, work, becoming a NEET, whatever that might be. It's 96% positive across those numbers. About 35% go into work. A significant number come back into the college and do the next year. So our final year level 3 students, of which there are probably about 2,000, they will often go out and do the university or work, or they might progress to our internal HE program. We've got exact numbers of all of those that make up the 93%, and we also know 96%. We also know the 4% as to where they are going. Are they NEETs or are they? The way we do that is we start with an intended destination, so we speak to the student before they leave. But of course, students change their mind, or life changes things for them. And so we follow up in January with students to gather where they actually are. And we're looking for a prolonged destination. Are they in work? Did they stay in work? And we do a heavy sample set on that to make sure our data still holds true. I hope that answers your question.
Slight change of tact on the question. The sort of 18 to maybe 25-year-old cohort that are focusing through FE, there's quite clear pathways at HE around grants you can apply, not so much grants anymore, but loans you can get, etc., etc. How do you ensure that FE is accessible to people, particularly from lower incomes or socio-economic backgrounds, to ensure that they can get through that learning process, and that getting on the bus or buying or accessing lunch is not a barrier to them being able to experience further education?
It's a really important cohort for the college, particularly 19, 20, 21, where they're even 22, where they're usually still in full-time program, and as I said, we call them accidental adults. They don't know they're an adult yet. And they're sitting next to an 18-year-old in a full-time program, and they have the same hopes and dreams. and we don't want to be saying to those young adults, because you can't afford your lunch. So we offer at the expense of the college bursaries for students, hardship bursaries. We offer loans for students who come from economic backgrounds that support means testing, and they can still come to us by taking loans out. That's a very small amount. The vast majority of our students will be allowed to come for free, because they won't have done their first level 3 qualification, and therefore they are funded they are funded. We have a small number of co-funded students who are doing part-time, and they tend to be trying to improve their work opportunity, but they're already in work, and they're co-funded because they earn over a certain amount, and then the means testing means then they can't be fully funded, but they're still part-funded.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeting.
Well, can I say it's a very detailed and, an excellent report, and well done for the standalone Ofsted inspection. And for me, this has filled a gap that we've not had before. We've talked about our primary schools, our nurseries, our secondaries, etc. But then so many of our Hillingdon children, young people, go on to your college. And so I would appreciate an update on this, maybe not annually, but maybe annually, not quite so full, because it does fill that very important gap. What do our youngsters do when they're no longer at our secondary schools, or maybe secondary school, sixth form is not for them, etc. Now, I think my question is concerning the link that you have to our secondaries, because we all know that some of our secondaries standards have been a challenge, and with our SEND children, that's been a challenge as well. So it would be interesting to know how many of our youngsters that were in our secondaries are coming to you, and what are they saying about that? We need to try to have the knowledge so that we can obviously support our secondaries, our important secondaries, but also acknowledge that you have a very vital part to play in that next journey for a lot of our residents.
Thank you. I think the partnership with our local schools is significant and strong, and it's evolved hugely over the last 2 to 3 years. In the work, working very strongly with Hillingdon, and we call them the two Michaels, Hawkins and Pearson. You may know them, but we've done a lot of work with Abby and her team in curating a head teachers network. Going back to Mr. Little's question before, schools were very nervous about us to begin with. They thought we were trying to eat their lunch, and in fact we're not trying to do that. We're trying to complement one another, and I think we've dispelled a lot of that fear, and the doors are open. On first name terms with most of the head teachers in Hillingdon, and we attend a network every six weeks half term, where we discuss approaches to working together, but a key focus has been the 14 to 19 strategy, supporting students who are at risk of becoming NEETs, because that's a growing data set we know across both Hillingdon and wider. In terms of the student the feedback, both with us and where they've come from, we have a huge learner voice network, class reps who go into student conferences and talk about what they love and don't like about the college, their aspirations and what we can do better to support them. We have brave conversation networks where we approach groups that have perhaps underperformed. So one of our underperforming groups was Black Caribbean students. And we have brave conversations as to how do you think we can support you, etc., as opposed to, we're trying to navigate things we don't perhaps fully understand, and that's been very successful. We do talk to our students about what they need with us having come from high school. We don't ask a direct question, did you like high school? But what they need from us tells us of their experience. And we also do initial and diagnostic assessment when they come to us, which sounds medicinal, but it isn't. It's academic. And we do something called a knowledge gap assessment. Where should they be on their learning journey at their age? And we use all that information to supplement where they should be and catch them up to where we want them to be. And so we're very proud of the outcomes that we get, because one thing I didn't mention before is that 60% of students who come to us without GCSE is in the lowest 20 percentile nationally. But the bit I did say was they leave in the top 10%. So we get a very challenged cohort, emotionally, mental health, etc., in high proportions. So I suppose that's one of the reasons, going back to Mr. Little's point about retention, is that it's very important to us as a metric, because we're holding students on that journey. We're not releasing them into the wrong path. So I hope that answers your question.
Very well, thank you very much. Can I ask about your capital programme? It's mentioned that you've got... I mean, I remember, because I used to be an officer of the council when you had double demountable classrooms to the right of your building. I remember them well. They're long gone, I know. But what's your plan for your extra capacity?
Thank you. It is both capacity and student experience focused. So we're growing at such a rate of knots that, yes, we have to grow just sheer footprint, but we're also very, very conscious, and the reason the investment is so large, classrooms don't cost nearly that much. The reason they're so large is because we want to invest heavily in what it is like to be on campus, how safe it feels, how welcoming it feels, how aspirational it feels. So there'll be some things like new reception spaces that expand and open you up with sort of science apparati hanging from the ceiling and digital screens and things like that are 2 stories high, just to give you a sense of, am I really allowed to study here? And I'm goddamn going to stay, because this is an opportunity for me in my life. And of course, we're investing heavily in things like immersive classrooms. These are classrooms with digital screens as big as each of these walls on 2 of them, and students are learning in these environments, and they're engaging with employers overseas and campuses between our campuses. We are rethinking the campus quite significantly. We're building a new learning resource centre library in a much more modern digital study space in the centre of the college. Double the canteen space, which is segmented into zones that feel more welcoming and safe rather than huge and overwhelming. Our challenge is to make the college still feel kind and small, despite having those large numbers. Our staff do a great job at that, but the building is working against us because it was new 15 years ago. So I would love to have all colleagues up to see the building as it evolves, and also to help open it up. But it's going to be something that we're really excited of. The reception is being called a lantern. It will light up Hillingdon. It won't keep you up at night, just in case you're planning.
Thank you. Councillor Batt.
Thank you, Chair. I echo my colleagues' sentiments on the detailed report and really appreciate it. Thank you for that. How do you ensure that students from low-income backgrounds or those facing social barriers receive the necessary sort of academic and pastoral support? And I'm a big fan of having a strong alumni and careers network. And I'm wondering if you have like a mentoring scheme that can help these students with such backgrounds.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's an ever-growing, a large portion of our student body. We have a mental health tracking list for students who have perhaps who have either advised us of wellbeing or we've noticed. We have staff a lot of training in that territory, and we have safeguarding lists of different tiers, etc. And of course, sadly, things like domestic violence are one of the growing trends in that sphere. Given our volume, you're going to have a small portion of students who are facing some of those more extreme challenges. If you're looked after child, for example, we have a significant student services offer, and that has specialist wellbeing staff, specialist mental health staff, specialist looked after children staff, councillors that we fund at scale, and we grow that team every year. They're very outward thinking, so we are very excited about data, that's how I describe it. And we have very good tools that track a student journey. So we notice if a student I can notice at a global level where students are falling away, the trends in attendance retention, and we have automated texts and things to parents and all that sort of stuff. But we will deploy resource if it hasn't been reported to those cohorts. So they'll have a dedicated student services team on site which has those specialist services. We have a tutorial offer. Every student gets an hour a week where they have one-to-one activity with an academic tutor to make sure they're on track. They can monitor their own progress on the college app, and the college app monitors them. You're late, for example. So we're trying to engineer more and more AI into it, and we're going to be investing a lot in that. And we're experimenting with more and more mentoring programs, which are very much about being on the beat, not just waiting for something to be noticed by a teacher in a classroom and therefore raising a hand, but we have a team of people who are now literally walking the campus and just looking for signs. A student perhaps who's having a bad time in the corner, see them 3 days in a row. Is there some bullying going on? Is there something poor happening at home? And then we have a process which we embrace them with to make sure that they don't fall away because they have to. They stay with us, and that's the difference between us having 84% achievement and 87% achievement are those 1s and 2s and students who don't fall away. So we invest a lot in it, in effort and finance. We think it's very important. It's our job. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Councillor Judge.
Thank you, Chair. How do you ensure consistency in tracking student progress across, different campuses and address challenges faced by the disadvantaged students?
Yeah, thank you. It's an excellent question. If I start with the disadvantaged students, we may enrol students on smaller groups so they get more support. Some students will have different shapes of programs so they get additional learning. We have a significant program of workshops and additional teaching outside of the college. We have a digital learning system which helps students engage if they've missed lessons. And we have those support teams that I was mentioning to Councillor Batt, which are outreach driven. So they will notice and they will go and find a young person, not wait for a knock on the door, and they will look for ways that they can help them to keep them on track or refer them to some of our services. Your first question is a puritanical passion of mine in terms of data nerdiness. I'm a mathematician by trade, and we have what we refer to by both Ofsted and the Association of Colleges as groundbreaking tracking tools. So at a headline level, I can watch probably 15 metrics of a student journey at the group 3 colleges level, and drill into college. The school, we have schools within the college, so the engineering school will be one at each college, for example, into the courses and down to the student level. And I can see where colleges are not performing well enough for in-year assessment, tracking, attendance, retention, something called individual learning plans, which is something that every student gets. It's something they need to do just for themselves to get the highest grade they can. And we track all of that through. We have significant training around all of those aspects to make sure they're effective as opposed to just box ticky. And I had something else I wanted to say about that, but I've lost it. But it's something that we do very well. I think we don't lose individuals in the ether of our size. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just
go ahead.
Sorry, just for clarity, with the ILPs.
Yes.
Do you include the appraisals?
So staff will have appraisals. Students won't have appraisals the way we do it. Students will have 3 individual learning plan 1-to-1 sessions a year, where they are set targets to help them get to their high grade or improve attendance or engage in a more productive way professionally, for example, more behaviour. And those targets will be monitored alongside their academic performance to see if they are cohabitating. And we fastidiously track the completion of both setting them and signing them off. And they're signed off at a met well, partially met, or referred. And so some of those targets will carry on into the next term. And we're constantly monitoring that as students set more targets, less targets. Across 15,000 students, it creates something like 50,000 targets, and we have a 99% compliance rate in our staff. So we're really proud of that. We set specific targets for high need students as well, which are based on their educational health and care plans. which I'm sure you know is a document which prescribes their specific needs, and that is not that it will be sort of support orientated, or it might be confidence building, or as David was talking about, helping a student develop themselves in terms of engaging with wider student cohorts, that kind of thing. So they're not always academic targets as well. Often they're very pastoral. We put risks against different students if they're not performing, and so we have extra engagement with students who are marked at risk. I don't have the number in front of me, but if I had my report, I could tell you exactly how many students are at risk across each of the 5 campuses, and how well they're doing on their progress versus their cohort. So I think we do hopefully quite a good job on that. But if you've got a bit more data suggestions, I'll take them. I love that stuff.
We can really hear your passion there, Dylan. It's amazing. Thank you. Any more questions for Dylan? Fantastic. Okay, Dylan, again, welcome to stay, but if you need to leave, please feel free.
That's okay. I've got some work to do tonight.
Of course.
Not on data.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, David.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, amazing. Thank you, Jeff. Over to you.
I'll just say a few big picture things, and then we'll do. I didn't realise presenting the annual report was allowable. I could have done that, but I picked out a few things I thought were interesting, which may have been a mistake. Okay, Brunel, I think probably just very quickly, Brunel presents a fairly distinctive profile in UK higher education, where we've got we invented the thin sandwich programme, got very highly employable graduates still, and continue to that. Huge driver of social mobility, and doing research that is very, very firmly informed by the needs of society, whether it's in the social sciences or engineering or computer science, wherever it is. So we're quite different, and we in the spectrum of UK universities, we present quite a pretty distinctive organisation. Just to give an idea of scale, we have 10,000 undergraduates, 6,000 master's students and 1,000 doctoral students, 2,300 staff. We're a £300 million turnover business, and we're pretty much I picked out a few things here, but I could have picked out another 25 things just to try to illustrate what's going on. I think 2 things, as I was sitting here, I wish I'd mentioned, which I will now mention, and then I'll take some questions. One was that we have an apprenticeship programme, which is focused mainly on the needs of the NHS workforce plan, but also a little bit on digital science as well. And it was the mention of Ofsted reminded me that we got an Ofsted outstanding for our apprenticeship programme, and it's we're the only institution to hold such a thing in London at the moment. And I guess the second thing, which isn't in the report, is that we have 2 quite large transnational education programmes in China. One in Chongqing, which nobody has ever heard of, but it's one of the 4 imperial capitals of China. They make 50% of the world's laptops in Chongqing, and we have 500, 600 undergraduates studying electrical engineering there. And we also have a major program in digital science in Beijing with NCUT, where we've got another 600 students there as well, studying Brunel degrees, and then they stay in China for a bit, and then they can choose to come here to finish their degree off, or they can stay in China to finish it, whichever they prefer. And I think that might be of interest to the committee as well. And I'm happy to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Who'd like to go first? Mr. Little, thank you.
Thank you. You say you've got a very distinctive profile, but the base of students who come to you, are they predominantly from the broader London area, or do they come from a much wider patch of the country like some other universities?
These days the vast majority of universities recruit fairly locally, and so do we. 45% of the students are from the United Kingdom, 10% from Europe, and 45% are from the rest of the world. So it's quite an international population, and the vast majority of those UK students come from West London, the surrounding areas of West London, over to the east, down the East End Road, down the Mile End Road. But it has become since people universities have changed and become much more local recruiters. It's become much more expensive, so students stay much more locally. But we are in a fortunate strategic position in having a lot of people living locally to us, which is very helpful in terms of recruitment.
Does that affect your marketing? Do you make a special effort with the local schools?
Oh yes. So I mean, I think the paper mentions some of the relationships we have with local schools, and the days when we used to send people to recruit in Nottinghamshire are long gone. We recruit in the south largely, and that's the way in which most of the London, apart from one or two global universities in central London, the other 45 universities in London are doing the similar sorts of things. We take a sizable fraction of our students from, as I say, West London, Uxbridge College being the largest single provider, of course, and then a sizable fraction from Hillingdon, and then the surrounding London boroughs.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Batt, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Universities, I kind of see them, they're kind of increasingly becoming involved in sort of innovation, and also sort of working in partnership with startups. We see a lot of that in the United States, for example, and to some extent we see quite a lot of that in London. I'm just wondering to what extent Brunel's kind of involved in anything of that nature.
I mean we're on the cutting edge of that in UK higher education. So I've just come away from an event this evening where we've had 20 businesses come in to work with us over 5 sessions to build an innovation plan for each business and then assign them a member of staff to work with. And we're going to take them, and we recruit these businesses, we bring them in as a cohort, we work with them over a programme. It takes about 6 months. They have 4 major touch points with us, and we kind of say that we kind of guarantee them that we'll find them public funding to support their next innovative product or process as part of that process. And that might be somebody that we're already holding, but hopefully it will be money belonging to some other branch of government, and that allows that business to take a new product or process to market. It's probably also worth recalling that we established the Central Research Laboratory at Hayes that has spun out nearly 130 new businesses now. It's now moved to Slough, and that has created a huge number of new businesses across West London. We also have a very large number of our own students going on to start their own business without going into an incubator or going into somebody else's incubator. We have plans in place to develop our incubator program so that we have more support for more students to make them more successful. So it's a big part of what we do, and institutions that vary in their profile in these things. So our emphasis is on student startups, which is a big part of what we do, and we have staff working with established businesses, so we don't have a lot of staff startups. What we do is we work with a lot of existing businesses. Our staff work with a lot of existing businesses to help them innovate with product or process. We don't have a lot of staff starting their own businesses. The two don't work well together. If you go into a business and say, I'd like to work with you on this because I'm thinking about starting my own business, the business doesn't necessarily think that's a good idea, so it's better to be doing. So we have a very large amount of income from Innovate UK, the UK's innovation agency, to allow us to work with existing businesses to allow them to scale and grow. And we're not really attempting to start our own businesses ourselves from our faculty. We're really we're supporting our students to do that. So these are slightly subtle sort of differences. So there are different institutions take different approaches to these things. So those with a larger footprint in biosciences tend to spin out their own businesses from their faculty more regularly because that's a more general path to commercialisation in that field. In engineering, it tends to be the way we do it, which is much more around Innovate UK, working with larger businesses.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sweeting.
Well, my main question has now been answered because Oliver was asking about local businesses, but I'm looking at page 3 of the report about volunteering opportunities in the local community. It's not a question, it's a thanks.
Yes.
Because my local residents association has used some of your students for some very interesting work, and so thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, and clearly we are looking for more volunteering opportunities for our students. It's, for some, doing a work placement is not the right thing to do. They perhaps have family commitments, or they have a part-time job they don't want to give up, or they have other types of issues, and so actually doing a little bit of volunteering helps them to fill their CV out, gives them some skills, gives them something to talk about in an interview, and it's a great thing. And the mayor quite often comes to the volunteering awards at the end of the year, which is one of my favourite events. It is really incredible. And the students, there's 900 and something students took part in volunteering that year, but the 100 who really get into it, who really go for it, they derive a huge benefit from it, and they're real advocates for the whole thing, and the awards are a great way of celebrating their sort of commitment to it.
Brilliant. Mr. Little.
Thank you. I occasionally attend seminars on history, and whenever I do, the academics there are always moaning about finance. I presume there is a lot of financial pressure on you as an institution. What sort of impact will it have in the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, you'll have seen in the press that there are quite a lot of universities that are in some financial difficulties. So the sector is in the same position as councils, I think, probably in terms of its funding challenges. And so a lot of universities are undertaking restructuring programs at the moment. We have quite a healthy intake of undergraduates, which was up on last year's numbers, and our overseas students went down, but we're hoping to stabilise that number over the next 18 months, 2 years. So at the moment we are aligning our capacity with demand. But this is a continual process. This is always has to be like that. You cannot operate. Nobody can operate with empty classrooms or unfilled seminar rooms. You have to have the people and the spaces, and you need to match the intake. And then we haven't had a huge fluctuation, but the fluctuation in demand is the peaks and troughs are higher and lower, and the frequency of change is much faster. But other than that, it's very much the same as before. So I don't see any particular. I think the answer is that we are managing it as are many other UK universities at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gohill.
Thank you, Chair. Brunel's well known for having a top-notch student union, like delivering things like free sport and diverse community events. How do you...
Yes, it is, yes.
I can say that, I'm a ward councillor in Colin Cowley. So, my question is, how do you work closely with them to ensure students are good neighbours?
I mean, we try to work with, obviously we have students on our council, we have regular meetings with them, and we invest in their projects when they align to the university strategy. The extent of the engagement varies. I mean, having been in the senior team for nearly 2 decades now, I know that the extent of the engagement waxes and wanes a bit, depending on personalities largely, and the strategic alignment. And so I shan't say more, but that's how it is. But I think on the whole, most of the time, the Students' Union and the university are pretty aligned, and over issues like widening participation, the supporting students with difficult, the advice and representation centre, the sports stuff, all of that is very common ground between the university and the Students' Union, and there's been areas of strong cooperation over the years. So the Students' Union can be helpful in campaigns. Sometimes they're not always. Generally, the relationship between the university and the Students' Union at Brunel has been good compared with most institutions. That's sort of a bit of a rambling answer, but I would say on the whole the relationship is good at Brunel. If you look at other places, they're quite often a much more tense relationship, I think it would be fair to say.
Okay, Councillor Smallwood.
I'm not sure I can follow that excellent question from Councillor Gohill any better if I tried, and certainly won't be pushing for sit-ins in the Vice-Chancellor's office any time soon. He'll be pleased to know. My question is around the community partnership that you've signed with the council, and how outcomes are going to look. And I don't think it's a criticism; it's an observation. I don't think I've seen what those outcomes look like, and I think this is a partnership, so this works two ways, Jeff. How do you think we can work stronger in that? How do you think we can enhance that, and how do you think we can promote that more?
Yeah, I mean, it's a civic agreement. Just to use its proper name. I mean, I think it's difficult to. I mean, okay, there are a number of aspects to it. First of all, it's a commitment on both parties to try and work more closely together. Now, that doesn't mean that when we come to you with a stupid idea, you just say yes and we crack on and do it, or vice versa. And so what you've got to do is find common ground where you can work together on projects and make them work so they work for both parties in a meaningful way. And they don't happen just straight away. And my, long experience, I mean, I've been Provost Chancellor of Research before I was Enterprise and Employment. I've been working on partnerships with the university for a very, very long time. It takes a long time to understand with a partner what they're looking for, what they want to do, what they have appetite for, and then how you might make it happen. And that can take a process of years. I think we've had some success. We've got a couple of projects with you. We did the work on the High Street. We're doing the work in Hayes. We've got the public part. We've had the PhD students. We're doing the volunteering. We've been hooked up over a number of other things. We've worked together on a number of things on quietly. We haven't had any big wins, but I think we're correctly positioned now to make that possible, whereas I think 3 years ago it was completely off the agenda for everybody. So I think we have done the right things, and I think but you're right, Peter. I don't think it's not borne fruit yet, but you have to stick at it. These things don't happen. My view is you don't do these things just straight off, and we've got good relationships between the senior staff, and we're talking to one another and looking for opportunities and trying to bring one another into partnerships. And I think if we continue to do that, that will yield dividends further down the road.
I just wanted to lead on around obviously, as a proud Brunel alumni and an even prouder former officer of the Student Union, the cohort of students or the type of students has significantly changed in the last 10 to 15 years. And some of that is coming, especially from Asia, coming over here and often living in the UK for the first time. And I think Brunel should be commended in the way that they have attempted to make sure that people integrate in an appropriate way. And given the large amount of people that are coming here, in other examples, you may expect to see issues, and I don't think we do. How do you think you've done that, and what lessons do you think we could learn further to show that the integration and good community cohesion can happen from these students? I mean, they generally come and live in Hillingdon.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've worked hard to try and create a sort of an inclusive and multicultural community within the university, and we've taken a lot of steps to make everybody feel included. And there is a sense of super diversity within the university if you wander around the campus, where you couldn't possibly feel out of place because nobody's in place, if you see what I mean. That is it's a contested term, but it's that's kind of how it is, and I think that's quite a healthy position to be in. And so we've tried to create climates in which nothing is the norm and everything is acceptable. And now that presents some challenges, and there are things that you have to say, no, you can't do. But on the whole, that has worked pretty well. And I think we have, unlike other institutions with perhaps not so diverse a population, we have managed to manage it in a way which has worked quite well for us and for the local community, I would suggest. I mean, I think the real opportunity... Sorry, I just wanted to... I feel a bit cheeky and just push on from there and just point out that the real opportunity for Hillingdon is many of these students are super entrepreneurial, want to start their own businesses, and the real opportunity for Hillingdon is to persuade more of them to have a go at starting their own business around here. And that is a real... And so when you're talking about the benefits to Hillingdon, it's, if you think about incubators and then trying to persuade... If we had more incubators around here, and this is something I have talked to the council about a few times, I'm quite keen on. If we had more support, if we had more things like the CRL, more things like that, or more things at the university to do those things, then we could be getting more of those students to start their own business and then persuading them to stop in Hillingdon. And I think we have 700 computer science graduates a year. You spend 3% of them to start their own businesses. That's 20 new digital businesses a year. If half of them in Hillingdon, by the time you've done 5 years of that, you've got something quite significant. And then we've got electrical engineering, same number of electrical engineers. They've got the same skills. They could do the same, and the mathematicians maybe do it, and so on and so on. You build it up, and that picture of what the opportunities are from the from the university is quite substantial. So the CRL, I mean, it was well ahead of its time. I don't feel the university quite got the credit that it might have got for setting that up. Other institutions have done things since on a larger scale and attracted a lot of attention, but actually the CRL was well ahead of its time, and actually we can do the same thing again, only on a different scale, more locally, if we wanted to. So I think those are where the opportunities sit for Hillingdon and the economy in Hillingdon, and not out with the sort of the more standard picture of a skills pipeline of graduates coming out of the university.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments? Fabulous. Jeff, thank you for your time and joining us this evening. It's been really interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on then. Agenda item 8, Stronger Families Hub Review Update. Anthony, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for enabling me to return to give an update on the recommendations of the last Select Committee away back in June 2023. I was proposing to provide a summary of the report. I'm unsure if everyone's had the opportunity to read that. I'm more than happy to do so. Otherwise, the councillors will recall there was 7 recommendations. I'm happy to walk us through those recommendations just to give you a bit of an update.
I think we can just go straight to the recommendations and just, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So just as a quick recap, the recommendations included raising the profile of the Stronger Families Hub to make sure that all residents, particularly children and their families, were aware of the support that was available. Maintaining the resilience of the 24/7 model, so members will recall that the hub operates 24 hours a day, 7 days of the week, 365 days of the year, so we were looking at the notion of building capacity out of hours to lessen the strain within office hours and those traditional working hours of 9 to 5 where most of the demand arises. The capacity of the hub was an issue that the Select Committee picked up on, and we have made quite a few investments within there to boost the capacity. In particular, the point round about supporting a lot of new arrivals and unaccompanied asylum-seeking children through one of our partners, Heathrow Airport, located obviously in Borough, creates a particular set of challenges and opportunities for the hub, and we've introduced a pilot team just to make sure that it's a dedicated bespoke service that's provided to unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. There was also some recommendations around about the accessibility of the hub, particularly for diverse communities. We know that there is some people, families, communities that are termed hard to reach, whereas actually on reflection it's just we've never been particularly good at actually engaging families, and we want to be a lot more creative and make sure that people know how to access support, preventative and early help support, not waiting until difficulties become entrenched within families and we need to react or provide interventions on a statutory scale. So we've used a number of ways, in particular the Stronger Families Partnership as a conduit to sharing information. We know the value of working relationships. We very much focus on relationship-based social work with children and their families, but word of mouth as well as the use of information technology to get the information out there in a range of languages, for example. We know that that works for a lot of people if they're digitally enabled. However, it doesn't work for all communities, so we do rely on our partners, including the Stronger Communities leads and managers, to work with our faith groups, community groups and the voluntary sector to make sure that information is available to all children and families should the need arise. And in that last recommendation, I think the Select Committee were questioning why there wasn't a option for a referral or the early help assessment, which serves that dual purpose of assessment and referral, to be made without consent. And we really did give much consideration and thought and discussion on that point. We wanted to avoid recreating some of the pitfalls and the barriers that we encountered in the past, which was receiving quite a large amount of information, the staff within the Stronger Families Hub having to try and make contact with families, often without any contact details or perhaps no telephone or mobile numbers. That would take a particularly long period of time. Really, our decision making should be 24 hours. We can enable up to 72 hours, but really we like to make those quick decisions within one working day to make sure that there's no delay for the family and they receive the right service at the right time. By giving an option on referral forms not to have obtained consent in the first instance as a number of drawbacks, it does lead to delay. Evidence shows us that. We've lived that experience. It doesn't get us off in the right footing from the very first instance, because we do need informed consent from every parent or person with parental responsibility, because otherwise the service itself isn't particularly effective. So we're being a little bit pragmatic around about that engagement and that buy-in from the very beginning, so that by the time they're contacted by a member of the hub, it's very much explaining the support that's in their local community, the support that's in their neighbourhood, and then how they can access that, whether it's through children's centres, the family hub network, or statutory social care, send advisory service or otherwise, rather than receiving information on a family, trying to contact that family, and only to find out that the family weren't aware that the information had been shared in the first place. So we've not introduced that recommendation as an amendment to the form. However, there is free text within the form that for whatever reason, child protection or otherwise, or a child missing education or a child with poor attendance, that the referrer can enter information there to say why in that particular set of circumstances consent wasn't obtained.
Okay, thank you, Anthony, for that, and thank you for the clarification around that last recommendation. And it makes sense what you're actually saying, and I'm pleased to see at least there's the option of free text if the person who is completing that form needs to add any further detail or provide any further information. There is that option there, so it's a bit of a kind of a good option at least, rather than kind of going one direction or the other. So thank you for that. I'm going to open it to the floor. Councillor Sweeting.
Thank you. I know there's been much progress made. I mean, this is obvious by your report, but I think it's my understanding that you're busier than ever, because you are part of the absenteeism agenda, if you like, as well as the send sufficiency agenda. So I'm looking at the resilience. We talked about the resilience, especially the out-of-hours 24/7 resilience. And there was sort of mention here that there is still one vacant post. Has that been filled? But more importantly, possibly, because we're expecting more and more from you, is there still, if you like, a resilience issue here with capacity?
The level of demand, you're absolutely correct, is continuing to grow. So councillors will remember that when we launched, within the first 12 months, we experienced a 28% increase in demand, which is considerable. So we used to average 1,500 requests for assistance per month, and it very quickly moved up to 2,000 or 1,900 or 2,200, depending on periods of the year. The idea to meet that level of demand and build capacity, which was a very innovative idea, no doubt there's other local authorities that are sort of looking over the neighbour's fence, so to speak, was trying to shift the capacity and not just focus on those office hours, bearing in mind that it's working days for those decisions to be made. And the role of the out-of-hours service, as you mentioned, is of central importance, because there is decisions that can be made in less busy periods, I won't say quiet periods, less busy periods of the week, where they will be able to do a lot of the information gathering and sending out information, whether it's on attendance support to our colleagues in that relevant team, or the other examples are about send and send us that you mentioned as well. So the one vacant triage officer post remains vacant currently. There is 10 in total, and that's part of that 24-hour decision making. Behind the triage officers, we have the out-of-hours social workers and senior practitioners and team manager. All of them are in fully permanent positions and have been since 2023, so we're very pleased round about that. The day team from the inside looking out, we have permanent members of staff, and I think I made reference to where we're very pleased to have recruited 3 within the past 6 weeks, so that was excellent. The interim post of a Stronger Families Hub team manager has now been converted into a permanent role, no longer an interim role that was subject to change. So we were pleased that we were supported by our leaders at director level as well as chief exec for that to be made permanent. So we remain committed to recruiting to that vacant triage officer post, just to make sure that all the resilience of the team is exactly where we need it to be just now. Nationally, you'll be aware that there's an increase in demand in most, if not all, local authorities. Most, if not all, local authorities are looking towards intervening early, being preventative, and we are very much ahead of the curve in that instance. So the role of the key worker, as well as triage officers, as well as the hub, is very much the discussions that's taking place just now, particularly in light of the national reforms. We really want to make sure that the hub continues to be or further embeds itself as a community asset, and we're looking at that locality-based model as much as will continue to be based within the civic centre as the hub, but not in other teams in all instances.
Yeah, I just have a question that I'd like to pick up on. You mentioned the national reforms, and on page 73 you did make reference to there's likely to be implications for the Stronger Families Hub, including staffing and resourcing. Can you just expound on that? What exactly does that mean?
So there is there was improvements that we were seeking to put in place. But again, we want to build on what's worked well. We're always constantly holding up that mirror to look at what stage we're at in our improvement journey. Even when we get to where we want to be, we raise the bar and we aim to go higher. So a lot of the discussions were plans that we had in place. We felt as though we were a little bit ahead of the curve. However, there is some expectations that because of the national reforms and some of the legislation that I referred to as well in the report, that there will be other areas a little bit further along the child's journey, so not necessarily primarily in the hub, but in other forms and other teams and other service areas that we'll need to put in place. One example of that being the notion of child protection experts leading on child protection inquiries. It's very clear, and it's been established for several years, even in court proceedings, that a social worker and a children's guardian are the expert in care proceedings. However, it's felt that having the same person lead on all child protection inquiries, being the same person that would chair the initial case conference if they made the decision to progress the case conference and indeed review child protection case conference, would give that consistency of oversight, whereas in the past it's been an allocated team that would complete the Section 47 child protection inquiry and the assessment. So that's one example of some of the changes that are proposed. The team would still have ownership of the plan, but you would have a particular person working with other agencies, health, police, education, and whoever was involved in the family support network to progress the child protection inquiry. Data tells us, and these changes and proposed changes are very much driven by data, that we complete a very high level of Section 47 inquiries relative to the number that progress to child protection case conference. We very much respect the rights of the family whilst making sure that we're adhering to our statutory responsibilities to undertake assessments and inquiries if a child was reported or may be at risk of significant harm, but we just want to have more of a equality, or make it equate between the number of inquiries and the number of initial case conferences, for example. But it very much brings us full circle, and there was a lot of evidence that was released quite recently to reinforce the plans that we have in Hillingdon round about the focus on early help and prevention rather than those more resource-laden, costly statutory involvements at a later date.
Thank you. Mr. Little.
Thank you. Can you say something more about the service and the children arriving at Heathrow Airport? Is this an area where demand is continuing to grow or not? And how well do you think the service is doing in that area?
Yes, absolutely. It's a particularly important area. I think it's one of the areas that makes working in Hillingdon Children's Services unique. It makes it challenging, but it makes it very different working in that social care environment of being what's known as a port authority, having the largest air gateway to the UK located within Borough. We have very good links with our partners, whether it's Heathrow Travel Care, the UK Border Force, or a number of other partners that are based in and around Heathrow, to make sure that that sharing of information is very rapid, regardless of whether it's a flight that's arriving out of hours or someone that's been found homeless in and around the airport. The point when about the demand, apart from a slight decrease during 2020, during the pandemic for obvious reasons, with flights cancelled and staff redeployed and such, it's been year-on-year increases on the number of children seeking asylum, many of which arrive within via Heathrow. So when I mentioned being a port authority, so Essex because of Dover, Croydon because of Lunar House, where most people in London go to claim asylum, are also deemed port authorities. The number that Hillingdon has is always very high relative to our London neighbours, with the exception of Croydon. Typically Hillingdon would have the second highest number of unaccompanied asylum seeking children. I mentioned earlier in my opening address round about the introduction of what's known as a pilot team. So it's an innovative team. The first response service, which is the referral and assessment service, in the past 3 to 4 years now has had responsibility for assessing and supporting initially all unaccompanied asylum seeking children that would arrive in Borough. However, we now have a dedicated team who is focusing exclusively on supporting unaccompanied asylum seeking children. We've done that for a number of reasons. As much as unaccompanied asylum seeking children are looked after children like anyone else, whether they're Indigenous or otherwise, with the same rights and responsibilities, at the same time we are also signatories to the National Transfer Scheme, and that's run about lessening the strain on the southeast of England, including London, when there's placements available in other parts of the country where the local population is below 0.1% of the child population. If that's not unaccompanied asylum seeking children, then local authorities who are above that threshold of 0.1 are able to, or are eligible to, transfer children and achieve permanency for them in other local authorities, rather than all new arrivals remaining within Hillingdon in this instance. So that's working particularly well. We should be supporting children to move to their permanent boroughs within 10 working days. That's not always met. Just to be open and transparent, there's a number of reasons for that. We're obviously relying on our colleagues in the National Transfer Scheme, effectively the Home Office, as well as the receiving local authority. So whether that's in Scotland, Wales or elsewhere in England, for a placement to be identified, and then supporting the safe transportation and transfer of that child to their new placement in another local authority. So that's a very specialist piece of work. We were very good at doing that in the past, making sure that children's best interests remain of paramount importance. But at the same time, with the new team, which we hope will continue beyond the pilot period, that additional resources, in particular the role of key workers to facilitate the transfer and escorting children during their day of transport from Hillingdon to their new local authority. I think that's a particularly important point, and it would be really worthwhile to have key workers able to support, rather than social workers spending a disproportionate amount of time where there's other children that they need to be supporting and protecting.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Sweeting.
Just a point on that before I go to my question, but I think we are seeing a lot of our older children, asylum-seeking children, going to schools quite a long way away, and that is an issue which has been brought up on our absenteeism issue. So I'll just leave that in the air. But my question was about the mental health, the review ways to enhance signposting, and I see that there is still some area of improvement needed there. How are we getting? Because it says that there are 25 services, all very important, but it's signposting those services to those in need of those services. So how is that improvement going?
The role of the Thrive network, and in particular the appointment of the Thrive manager, the Thrive practitioner that I referred to, has been of central importance around about coordinating it. As much as Thrive has been an initiative that's been in place for 2 to 3 years, it felt as though it wasn't achieving the outcomes that, generally speaking, we were hoping and expecting for that to do. So we've really married up that process with a lead to have that umbrella over the services that you mentioned, all 25 of them. I know that the person that's in post has met with many of those partners. We've devised a interim directory so that people can see the services that's out there already, and the online, very user-friendly directory is in the latter stages, and we're hoping that that's going to be launched towards the end of this month, which would be a great resource. And not to repeat my point earlier, but round about, we understand that not all residents are digitally enabled, so we just want to make it as easy and as streamless to access support for people who are online, but at the same time very mindful of the importance of children's centres, family hubs, universal services, whether it's colleges, universities or schools, where people can access the support, whether it's pre-birth or under 5 or 5 to 18 or all the way up to age 25 if they have special educational needs.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, thank you. We can bring this agenda item to a close. Thank you, Anthony, for joining us this evening.
Thanks very much.
Okay. So the next agenda item is number 9, which is persistent absenteeism review. We are going to defer this agenda item for now. I think it will just give us more time to look at the draft recommendations and discuss with officers, and then we will look at bringing it back at a later stage. So we move straight on. Oh,
can I just say thank you very much to the Chair for this?
Okay, no worries, thank you. We move to agenda item 10, which is minutes of the corporate parenting panel, 5th of November. Do we agree? Yeah. Thank you. 11 is the forward plan. Any questions, comments? No? Fabulous. And then we go to agenda item 12, which is the work programme. Councillor Sweeting.
It's just that our work for the next meeting was already quite heavy, and if we're going to include the final recommendations for our major review, maybe we can look at anything on that agenda for the March meeting to see whether it can possibly slip. I don't know whether it's going to be possible, but I know that maybe the recommendations that come from our major review will be in a form at that meeting that is going to be sort of not a great in-depth discussion. Maybe that will be possible, but all I'm saying is it was already going to be a very heavy meeting.
Yeah, agreed. I think that Ryan will have to take this away and have a look at it, so yeah, of course. Any other questions, comments? Okay, fabulous. I think it's been a really good evening, especially having our higher education and further education colleagues join us. It was very interesting, and maybe we can look to have them come again, maybe annually or something, for an update. But thank you all for your questions and contributions, and have a good evening.